Well, this might be surprising, but we have another story. The Berenstain Bears Lost Book. Alright, let's get the show on the road. As you may know, that popular book/show, The Berenstain Bears.
Wow, not even the first sentence in and this story's already terrible.
Stan Berenstain had a darker plot planned for book 24.
Oh, wow, I can tell where this story's getting its inspiration from.
The book was called Grandpa's House. One time I was looking at Berenstain Bears and I clicked on shopping on Google and an unknown book of the Berenstain Bears appeared and I ordered it.
Oh shit, here we go again.
And I read it 2 days later.
Good God, this sentence has more ands than a freaking jazz tune.
Something was weird about this book. Papa Bear was angry, Mama Bear had no emotion, Sister Bear was sad, and Brother Bear was worried. Oh, I've never heard that happen in a story before.
Dead Bart.
The book began like this. The Berenstain family was going to their grandpa's house and Brother Bear said, "Mama, I don't want to go." And for some reason, Sister Bear was crying because her brother didn't want to go. And Papa Bear was angry at Brother as the car was driving. It started showing weird drawings of people dressed up like them. I repeat, not bears. Humans. They had black voids where their eyes should have been, and while nobody was at the house, as it showed the house, there were no doors or windows. It showed them driving again, then showed Papa getting out of the car and pulling out his saw and cutting a tree. It fell on the car, and Brother, Sister, and Mama ran out of the car as it was on fire. They ran from the car, and it showed Brother with mismatched human eyes. Mother Bear had a human mouth that appeared to have been cut and pasted from a photograph. Sister had a photorealistic body. Papa Bear had no face at the time, then run to Grandpa's house and made it in time. The house was all fiery looking. Then I stopped reading it and showed it to a friend, and he was very surprised that the Berenstain Bears were darker than usual. I took pictures from the book and loaded them onto my computer, but then something went wrong. My computer went nuts. Oh, I've never heard that happen in a story before. I clicked CCleaner to clean it out, and I rebooted the computer, and everything in my folder was erased. But the other files on the computer and folders were lucky.
Oh, sure. Your only evidence has been deleted because banana.
I wrote a letter to Stan Berenstain about the book. He replied that book was made by a producer at my company, but he fired him.
What the hell does that mean?
Somehow, I got back my folder file 6 days later.
Never mind about the banana thing then, because this story also has no consistency.
I sold the book and added a warning sign on the book. Since someone bought it and as I knew the person. As you knew them what? They ripped it up after she told me it appeared in her closet, her attack, her dresser, under her bed, and in her food cabinet. She asked her siblings if they did it. They did not know anything about the book, so she asked her mom and dad and they didn't do it. So the book was cursed and she ripped up the book and put it in the blender and threw it in the fire and it was never seen again. The book was made February 1st, 1989.
Wait a minute, how do you know that the book was made in 1989 if the book had been destroyed? What?
At the time, Stan had an idea for a book about life and realistic things, while in the book he drew a realistic painting of Brother Bear. Stop ripping off Dead Bart. Page 13 ended with that picture. When page 14 started, Grandpa Bear was sitting on his table, staring at the person reading the book. Then on page 15, it said 2 minutes later, as Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Sister Bear were at the Bear County's graveyard, and Sister, Mama, and Papa were breaking the car. When Sister finds Brother's body covered in maggots, where did that come from?
Really though, the story didn't state earlier that Brother had died in any way whatsoever. Why would they find his body already decomposing out of nowhere? I know I'm getting a bit critical here, but this... just no.
She starts vomiting and crying, but Papa stares at Mama Bear, then they all look at Brother's body and starts vomiting on each other, but then stop and stare at Brother's body, and then page 23 opened with Papa saying something, but I couldn't understand, because all it said was, Papa Bear was saying, when it said to repeat, it sounded like I was babbling. Me too, buddy. Everyone starts leaving as the book came to a close on page 34. There are the tent swaps. No copyright logo on the back of the book or anything, but there was Indian handwriting. I couldn't understand what it said. I think it said, "The Berenstain Bears is copyright 1851," but that's not the year the Berenstain Bears were made. Then one of my friends had a copy of the book, but it was in Japanese, and some things were edited on my friend's book. And also on my book, it had death tombstones. What other kind of tombstones are there? But some cast haven't died yet. Okay, stop ripping off Dead Bart. I am serious. Some people who died in the book were very well known as Tom Kenny, John Krikfalski, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, Corey Doran, Tabitha St. German, Tim Allen, and Jim Cummings. In my friend's book, that page was taken out. You can pretend that the deaths are not really in the book, but you can think about when you read this book. You shouldn't read it, because it haunted my world of this book forever. The weird thing is that the ones who did die were all in February. Some were in March, but most were in February.
Alright, so what all was wrong with this story? Well, for one, we can think about the fact that it has more plot holes than Swiss cheese. For another thing, we can think about how the story has a consistency of roast beef in a paper straw. And for another thing, we can talk about how this is a complete rip-off of another story, which isn't even that great to begin. Well, actually, no, it's one of my favorite stories, and it actually got me into creepypasta. But it's a rip-off nonetheless. And why is it that every single Berenstain Bears story I read is a rip-off of Dead Bart? I don't get that. And we can't forget about the photorealistic that we have going on in this this terrible thing that I found. Yeah, so that's episode 2 for y'all. You can subscribe if you want, but that's about it. The story is garbage. Bye.